What's up, guys? It's Tony here. Welcome back to Man Cave Studios. Today, I'm going to be doing the same thing that I've done in April and in May regarding the Electoral College map. I have a headset on today. I got a comment on my last video saying that the mic sucked. I am aware that the microphone on my webcam sucks. If you can't tell by looking at this video, the entire quality of the video sucks. But luckily, I'll only be in this corner for most of the time. This might be I might have two episodes this month, just by the way, because things might look different later in the month. I just have some new projections I wanted to share with you guys, some new research that I did. Found that this race is a bit different from what I imagined it could be. Um, so yeah, here we go. I'm going to start with a blank map today. Uh, so we are going to just go by pretty much by the time that polls close in each state. I might skip over a few states, but basically what I'm going to try to do is project it as they projected it in 2016 because I feel like this election is going to be kind of similar in how states are projected as in 2016. So I'm going to start on the East Coast. The first polls to close are going to be probably in the states of Vermont, which is a clear blue state. I'm going to add a few more categories. All right. Vermont is a pretty clear blue state. I think Kentucky is the solid red state. Actually, let me get the poll closings up real quick. I know there are a few different poll closing times in 2020 than there were in 2016. Okay, so Indiana and Kentucky, in addition to Vermont, are the first states where we should see polls close, um, where we're going to have a winner. So this is going to be what the map looks like for the first half hour. It's going to be pretty much straightforward, 19 to 3, Biden trailing Trump by 16 electoral votes. And I wrote a blog post. For those who don't know, I own Bronx for Biden, the chapter at my college that I'm the president of the chapter at my college that supports Joe Biden. And I wrote a post about how it's not even going to be worth watching until about 10 o'clock for Democrats because Biden's going to be behind most of the night. And I kind of simulated checking this out, and it looks like it's going to be Trump for a while on election night. If he doesn't win, he's still going to be ahead for at least the first 2 hours. So then 7 o'clock polls close. I expect South Carolina is going to go red, but it's going to be too close to call it first, and that's another 7 o'clock closing time. The other states are Georgia. Florida closes, part of Florida closes at 7, but the central time part of Florida closes at 8, so there won't be a projected winner there anyway because it's such a hard swing state and it's really close. Um, and Virginia closes. I think Virginia is going to be a little bit after 7:30. So the polls are going to close at 7:30, and we're going to get West Virginia. And I feel like immediately after that, or sometime immediately after that, we're going to get Virginia and Virginia. Um, all right, and then there probably won't be anything else until 8 o'clock. A lot of polls close at 8 o'clock. Alabama, Connecticut, and Delaware are the first few in alphabetical order. There we go. Um, and then Florida Central Time closes, but that's going to still be too close to call because it's an intense swing state. Illinois, I don't think we'll get Kansas in yet. Only Central Time closes in Kansas at 8. But Illinois, Maine, Massachusetts will come in. Illinois is a solid blue state. Massachusetts is a solid blue state. Even if they're not called exactly at 8, they shouldn't be called too long after. I know Massachusetts and Maryland were called a little bit after 8 o'clock in 2016. In terms of Maine, I think we'll get the state will be blue. The first and second districts are kind of still up for grabs. I think the first district is pretty solid blue, or at least leans blue, and then the second district is leaning red at the moment. So we might not get those in immediately, but generally Maine as a state is probably going to go blue, and it's going to be announced pretty close in, um, or it's going to be announced pretty close to 8 o'clock. So then Maryland, Michigan, Mississippi. Maryland is going to be blue. Mississippi is going to be red. We're not going to see Michigan for a few hours, most likely. And then, hold on, let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Missouri, New Hampshire, New Jersey. Missouri's a hard red state. It's not going to be in immediately, but it's going to be in probably close following. Um, I, I'm just gonna say because the next poll closing times, Arkansas is at 8:30, so we're gonna throw Arkansas in the mix and just put Arkansas red. But these are states that I think are gonna be called by 9 o'clock, which is when the next set of polls close. So then, New Hampshire is going to be too close to call for a little while. It was too close to call in 2016. Right now, it's labeled as being leaning blue, but some polls have showed that it's a lot closer, and it could flip red in 2020. It almost flipped red in 2016. And then New Jersey, Oklahoma, and Pennsylvania. So New Jersey is going to be blue. Um, Oklahoma is going to be red, and then Pennsylvania is going to be too close to call for a little while. Um, Rhode Island, South Dakota, and Tennessee. Rhode Island is a solid blue state. South Dakota is a solid red state. Um, and then what was the other one? Tennessee. That's a solid red state as well. Um, and then we have Texas and Washington, D.C. And Washington, D.C. is going to be blue. And Texas is going to be too close to call it first because it's a lot closer of a state this time around. But it will probably eventually go red, but I expect that it won't go red until after 9 o'clock. And that's when the next polls close. So, if you look at the top right now, it's 91 to 86. So, before 9 o'clock, this is probably going to be what the Electoral College map looks like. It's not going to be a landslide for either of the candidates. I said before that Biden probably wasn't going to lead until 10 o'clock. If he does, it's going to be slim like this. He's not going to storm out to any big leads. I think that it's going to be sometime between 9 and 10 o'clock. We're going to start seeing some swing states in. I think Ohio, which closes at 7:30, is going to be in shortly after 9 o'clock, and it's going to be red. I'm going to say that it leans red for now. Um, I'm just gonna fill in any state that comes in later is gonna be a lighter color. So like if North Carolina is blue, for example, it's gonna look like that. But because it comes in later because it's gonna originally be too close to call, I'm gonna fill in those states just a different color. Um, so then 9 o'clock hits. Arizona comes in, but that's going to be too close to call. Colorado is probably going to be too close to call, but it's definitely going to be in by 10 o'clock that it's going to be blue. It's becoming a hard blue state for Democrats, and I expect that it'll stay that way in 2020. And beyond that, it'll probably continue to be blue to the point where it almost becomes like New Jersey or New York. Um, Kansas, uh, the rest of the vote in Kansas comes in at 9 o'clock. That's going to be a red state. Louisiana, Michigan, the central time part of Michigan, and Minnesota come in. Michigan's still going to be too close to call. Louisiana is going to be red. And then Minnesota is not going to be called within the first hour, but it's going to be blue, ultimately. So I'm going to fill that in like that. And you know what? While I'm at it, I'll fill in Texas because that's going to be later as well. It's going to be red. But it's not a key battleground state, so that's why I'm filling that in now. Um, and then Nebraska, New Mexico, and New York. These are some pretty hard red states. Um, that this is what we can predict for Nebraska. I think later on we're going to see that the second district is going to be blue. I don't know if it's going to be in the first hour, but it's going to ultimately turn blue. At least it looks like that right now. So that's why I'm projecting that. Um, and then we have New Mexico and New York. New Mexico's not originally going to come in blue, but it will ultimately be blue. And then New York is a hard blue state. It's always really been blue for the last, since I can't even remember the 80s probably, after George W. Bush, the first one, was elected. I don't even know if it went for him then, but it's a hard blue state. North Dakota and the rest of South Dakota. North Dakota is a hard red state. Um, Texas, I already mentioned, is ultimately going to be red. Wisconsin and Wyoming are going to be in two. Wisconsin is not originally going to go for either party, but Wyoming will go red. It's a hard red state. So then before 10 o'clock, some of the other states I think that'll come in. I think that Georgia will be in by 10 o'clock, and I think that'll be red. Um, or you know what? Maybe not at 10 o'clock. I think it'll ultimately be red. It's not a key battleground state, though. New Hampshire, I think, will go blue before 10 o'clock. Um, New Hampshire is it's trending blue at this point, and I think that it will ultimately go blue, especially if Elizabeth Warren is a VP, because she'll definitely do a lot of campaigning there. And then I don't think we have Iowa in yet. Iowa closes at 10. Okay. So Idaho won't originally come in. That's a first state that I see that closes at 10 o'clock. Iowa will. That will take a little bit, but it'll probably ultimately go red. And that's not really a key battleground state, but that'll go red probably. The Senate race there is close. We'll see who gets the nominee to go against Joni Ernst, but I do a lot of campaigning for Teresa Greenfield, who's a Democratic candidate there, and it's a really close race right now. It's pretty much dead even. Um, and then Montana, Nevada will come in. Montana will be red immediately. Nevada will be red or will be blue within the first hour of polls closing. Um, Oregon doesn't completely close, so I'm not going to call that yet. And then Utah will be red. All right, so this is what we have so far. I don't think that any of these states on the east will be called by 11 o'clock still. I think that we're going to be up till at least midnight on election night. So I'm going to leave these blank for now and look at the 11 o'clock closings, which are going to tell us a little bit more. California, Hawaii are hard blue states. They will both definitely be blue. And this is where I say Biden's going to take what looks like a good lead at this point. He's going to win California and Hawaii. This is going to be his first real, you know, this is where he's going to be shown ahead. If Trump wins any of the states on the East, they won't be called until probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Um, and if they're as close as polls right now are showing, then they probably won't be called till, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Um, so we'll see about those. Idaho, the rest of Idaho closes. That'll be a red state. Oregon will be a blue state, and then Washington will be a blue state. Now, this looks pretty good for Biden right now, but this is pretty much how the map looks right now if it were to start today. Alaska closes at, all of Alaska closes at 1 a.m., so that'll be in then. And then I think we'll start to see some of these close. And now let me start taking a look at some of the polls. Dang it, I really just had them up and they went away. Uh, the most recent poll in Florida I saw was pretty troubling, and that's why I'm kind of making this video today. It was a poll taken by a company called St. Pete Polls. So I imagine that was taken near St. Petersburg. And for Biden to win this election, he's going to need higher turnout in urban areas, and he's going to need a higher percentage in these urban areas. And these are just registered voters, but another poll taken on the 21st showed that he's only ahead by 2% among 1,000 likely voters. And likely voters are above registered voters. They're more important than registered voters. And then 2 days before that, there were two separate polls that showed he's ahead by 5 percentage points and by 1%. So this really isn't accounting for a lot of the this part, if you can see where I'm, hold on, let me see if you can see. Okay, yeah, you can. Um, can you see the mouse though? No, you really can't see the mouse. My apologies. Still trying to figure this out. But the panhandle part of Florida, northern Florida, that's going to be a hard red part of the state, and it's often not accounted for. And Hillary thought that she was going to win the state in 2016, but she didn't, and it ultimately went red. So I think that that's going to be red. Um, Arizona, actually, North Carolina was first to close. North Carolina um, was before Florida, I believe, in 2016, and it's dead even right now. And that's, partisan polls, that's nonpartisan polls. There are some polls that show Biden leading by 2%. There are others that show Trump leading by 3%. The ones with Biden leading are among likely voters, but the ones depicting Trump in the lead just show registered voters, but more registered voters. So I think that North Carolina is going to be red if it's dead even right now with the urban vote and suburban vote as well. So I think that that's going to go to Trump right now. North Carolina is going to go to Trump. Um, the next polls to close, I think, are going to be in Wisconsin. Um, I don't think it was that way in 2016, but I think that it's very much in favor of Biden right now. And ultimately, I think that his lead, at least with the most recent poll among likely voters, is large enough to say that he has a commanding lead in Wisconsin. And so I think that Wisconsin is going to go blue. Um, the next state to come in, well, let's see. Pennsylvania right now shows two different things. It shows Biden leading by a lot in some polls and Trump leading by a lot in others. Michigan has really been solid Biden, but recently it's kind of slipped a little bit. Um, the PPP did a poll about a few weeks ago that showed Biden was ahead by 6%, but others show he's only ahead by 2% or 3%. So I think that we will get Pennsylvania first this election. Um, and right now it looks good, especially if there's a lot of turnout in the urban community. And it all really depends on who his VP is. If he can get somebody that can bring out the urban population to vote, then I think that Pennsylvania will be blue. And I think that ultimately he will get somebody as his vice president that can make sure we get out the vote in states like Pennsylvania. I know I'm personally going to be doing a lot of campaigning in Pennsylvania. And I think that ultimately Biden's lead right now, on top of whoever is VP, is helping out with Pennsylvania and getting out the urban vote. If they um, are able to solidify that urban vote, um, will ultimately make Pennsylvania blue. And then I'm really calculating this based on if this election is like 2016, not if we're doing mail-in ballots. So just keep that in mind as well. Michigan. I think that'll come in probably before Arizona. Let me see. Biden's lead in Arizona was a lot larger in April. It's now kind of shrunk recently. It was even larger as recently as May 19th. He had an 8% lead. Now his lead is down in the most recent poll to about 2%. And again, if that's just like the Phoenix area, I don't think that he's going to be able to flip that state blue. So I think that that state will ultimately go to Trump if that's the case. Now, Michigan. That leaves Michigan as pretty much a last state. Um, and it's 16 electoral votes as well. Um, hold on, let me get the polls up again. All right. Now Biden has a pretty big lead in Michigan right now. Uh, Michigan in 2016. I'm going to pay close attention to this one. I want to get the exact number of votes that was different. Trump won by a very thin margin in Michigan in 2016. He won by pretty much 11,000, less than 11,000 votes. And he won in a lot of northern Michigan counties. He Clint Hillary Clinton won in a lot of southeastern parts of the state, but um, I this is a hard one because it was so close. Um, let's take a look at. I want to see if I can see any uh polls from Michigan in 2016. It's not gonna let me. There we go. All right. There were some polls before the election showing that Clinton was up by 3%, but there were others showing Trump up by 2% among likely voters. But a lot of polls showed that Clinton was up in that state. We didn't really see that. Biden's up by a little bit more in the polls recently, but it's really, you really can't I really can't say. So because the last two videos have been more about, Biden's going to win, I'll just say that it goes red right now. But this is going to be a key state to win, Michigan. Originally, when I was doing some calculations, I saw that, let me see if I can get that map up again that I had. If Pennsylvania goes blue and Michigan goes blue and Wisconsin winds up going red, then we will have a virtual tie. And would be that would mean that it would go to the House of Representatives, which is right now Democrat. And I think that there will be justification for making sure that um, the popular vote wins. And I think that um, that uh, Biden will probably win the popular vote if he's winning in places like New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, California, and some of the, Minnesota, Michigan. Hillary won the popular vote without some of these states like Minnesota, or not Minnesota, without like Michigan and Pennsylvania in 2016. And Biden is doing a lot better than Hillary did in the polls. So I think that Biden's definitely going to win the popular vote, and because the House of Representatives is blue, and I think is going to stay blue, um, I think that Biden is ultimately going to win the election if it comes down to it being tied. Um, Unless we have an elector, I forget what the term is, an unfaithful elector or something, that casts a vote for another party or another candidate, and I think that that's more likely to happen with Biden than with Trump because I think there is more of a chance that a Biden delegate will cast a vote for Bernie instead of Biden, um, and that would give Trump the election. So we'll see, I guess. I'm not too sure about how that process would work, but we could have this tie scenario play out. But right now, I would say that Wisconsin is blue, and then we don't really know about Michigan. But I think that um, at least right now, it looks pretty good for Trump in Michigan, especially with Biden's numbers starting to decline recently. But we'll see how things go later in the month. I expect to make another video like this later in the month. So yeah, let's see. Can I still get that vote count up? Yeah, but it's wrong. Um, Biden is actually guaranteed 217, really. I don't know where the difference really was, but it would have been 6 electoral votes somewhere. Um, I think it was because Nevada is light blue, but I said that, yeah, that was it. I said that it'll be called within the hour. Um, but yeah, this is pretty much what I have right now. So thank you guys so much for watching. As a Democrat, I hope this map isn't the scenario, but it's going to be close either way. If either of these candidates gets to 200 or gets to 300 electoral votes, that would be surprising to me right now, despite what I said last month. But a lot of Biden's poll numbers have been dropping recently. And I have an idea of why that is. Some of his comments, but also some things going on with the campaign right now. Not necessarily conflicts in the campaign, but how the campaign is being pursued. And I might make a video about that later on, maybe after the election if Biden loses. I might make a video about some of the things that are not going as well as I would hope with the campaign, or not as organized as I thought they would be. Um, but yeah, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. I feel like I have to kind of make a video that shows Trump in the lead either way, because I haven't made one in the past, and I want to kind of reach out and make it seem like I'm not being partisan. And this is Trump's best path to victory, right now, because Pennsylvania is trending harder for Biden now than it did in 2016 for Hillary, and Wisconsin is trending harder for Biden now than it did for Hillary in 2016. Um, but I don't know about Michigan. Um, it all depends on who turns out to vote, or if people think that they should turn out to vote in Michigan in 2020 based on, you know, Trump's handling of the coronavirus, which a lot of people disapprove of. Um, in fact, let me see. Before I go, I want to check on Trump's approval rating real quick. It's really hard to win a second term in office. Um, Here we go. Originally, Trump's approval rating started off at 45%, and his disapproval rating was 41%. And that was the first day that he was in office, pretty much. And now his disapproval rating is 53%, and his approval rating is 43%. So a difference of about 10%, a little more than 10%. And his disapproval rating mostly in every poll is above 50%, and his approval rating never really touches 10%. And we'll see how many people turn out to vote, but that's not looking good for the Trump campaign right now, just to provide reassurance for Biden people like myself. Um, but you don't have to be popular to win an election, and we kind of figured that out with the 2016 election. Trump's approval rating has never hit 50%. His average approval rating has never even gotten to 50%. Um, so we'll see. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, let me know if you agree or disagree, and peace out, broskies.